She wiped blood off her shoes like it was nothing. Nobody looked twice at her. To the staff at Ridgeview Memorial, she was just Maya. Quiet. Punctual. The nurse who never raised her voice, never argued, never asked for credit. She restocked supply carts before anyone noticed they were empty. She worked the worst shifts without complaint. Nobody knew that 6 years ago, she had carried a bleeding man across a minefield. Nobody knew her hands had once steadied a scalpel in a collapsing tent while mortars fell 50 yards away. Nobody knew her real name wasn't Maya at all. Tonight, that was about to change. Welcome back to Silent Heroes. If you're watching this at midnight like half our comment section, drop a black heart below and tell us, where in the world are you tonight? And hit that subscribe button, because stories like this one deserve to be found. Now back to Maya. The ER doors hissed open, and the ordinary night kept moving. Ridgeview sat on the edge of a mid-sized city, the kind of hospital that ran on duct tape and overtime. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The vending machine on the 3rd floor had been broken since March. Maya liked it that way. Predictable. Small. Safe. She was 34, though most people guessed younger. Her hands were rough, calloused in places office nurses' hands never were. A thin white scar crossed her left eyebrow, another traced along her forearm, half hidden under her sleeve. She kept her hair pulled back, tight and practical. She never wore jewelry. She never talked about her past. She had learned the fastest way to survive was to make herself small. Small meant safe. Small meant no one asked questions. Small meant nobody connected the quiet ER nurse named Maya Ellison to the woman who used to exist under a very different name, in a very different uniform, in places that didn't officially exist on any map. She'd built this life brick by brick. A modest apartment. A rescued dog named Radar. A routine so unremarkable it was practically armor. Dr. Preston Cole ran the ER like it was his personal kingdom. He was 42, sharp-suited even under his white coat, the kind of man who name-dropped his father's hospital wing donations in casual conversation. He'd inherited his position more than earned it. Underneath the confidence was something smaller, a fear of being exposed as less capable than the title suggested. He had a habit of humiliating nurses in front of patients. "Try to keep up, Ellison," he'd say, loud enough for the whole bay to hear. "This isn't a job for guesswork." She never answered back. She just did the work. One evening, an elderly patient named Walter Higgs, in for his 3rd cardiac follow-up that month, grabbed her wrist gently as she adjusted his foreline. "You're not like the others here," he said, studying her face. "You've seen things. Bad things. I can tell by your eyes." She smiled and said nothing. "Someday," Walter said, "you're going to stop hiding. And when you do, I hope I'm there to see it." She patted his hand and moved to the next bed, telling herself he was just an old man talking. But the words stuck somewhere she couldn't shake them. By 11:47 that night, the emergency doors burst open with a scream of sirens. Multiple trauma. MVA with entrapment, incoming in 3. The bay erupted into motion. Gurneys wheeled, monitors wheeled into place, the overhead trauma page blaring through the halls. Dr. Cole strode in like a man walking onto a stage, barking orders that sounded confident and were, in fact, wrong. "Start him on standard fluids, wide open," he ordered. Eyes on the first patient rolled through the doors. A man in his 50s, torso soaked dark red, blood pressure crashing on the monitor. Maya's eyes moved faster than her mouth. Distended neck veins. Muffled heart sounds. Falling blood pressure that didn't match the visible bleeding. Beck's triad. Cardiac tamponade. Wide open fluids wouldn't save him. They might by seconds, but the real killer was pressure building around his heart, squeezing it shut like a fist. She didn't say it out loud. Not yet. She just moved closer, watching the monitor, waiting. Then the second gurney rolled in. A man in his late 30s, shrapnel wounds along his side, a torn combat jacket cut open by paramedics revealing dog tags tangled at his throat. He was barely conscious, mumbling, disoriented from blood loss. But his eyes opened halfway when Maya leaned over him to check his airway. He blinked, focused, and whispered a single word. Reaper. The word hit the room like a detonation. Maya's whole body went still. That call sign hadn't been spoken aloud in 6 years. Not since the extraction that ended everything. Not since she buried a version of herself in a shallow grave of forged paperwork and a new last name. What did he say? Dr. Cole snapped, glancing at her. Ellison. What did that mean? Maya's jaw tightened. Her hands, for one visible second, trembled. Nothing, she said quietly. He's confused. Blood loss. But her eyes hadn't left the man's face. And something in her chest, something she'd kept buried for 6 long years, had just cracked wide open. Dr. Cole didn't buy it. You know him. I don't. You're lying to me right now, in my ER. She said nothing. The silence stretched, heavy and dangerous, while behind her, the monitor on the first patient, the one with the crushed chest and the failing heart, began to scream its own alarm. Get him stabilized, Maya said, cutting through the noise. Cardiac tamponade. He needs a pericardiocentesis now, or he's gone in minutes. Cardiac tamponade happens when blood or fluid builds up in the sac surrounding the heart, squeezing it until it can no longer pump properly. The warning signs are distinct. Low blood pressure, bulging neck veins, and muffled heart sounds, together known as Beck's triad. Left untreated, the heart simply stops. A needle guided carefully into the pericardial sac to drain the fluid can relieve the pressure in seconds and buy the patient the time surgery requires. Dr. Cole hesitated. That's not protocol, we don't even have. There's no time. Maya's voice had changed. Steady. Clip. Certain. Her hands, trembling seconds ago, went perfectly still. She grabbed the kit, positioned the needle beneath the sternum, angled it toward the left shoulder exactly the way she'd done in the back of a rattling transport helicopter years before. She watched the monitor, not the room. Stay with me, she murmured to the patient, not to anyone else. The needle found its mark. Dark fluid drew back into the syringe. The monitor's frantic rhythm slowed, steadied, found a beat that could survive. The room went silent except for the beep of a heart deciding to keep going. Nurses stared. A resident whispered, "How did she know that?" Dr. Cole stood frozen, stethoscope useless in his hand, sidelined in his own emergency room. He recovered his composure the only way he knew how, with authority instead of gratitude. Ellison, you're suspended, effective immediately, for performing an unauthorized invasive procedure without physician order. No, Maya said. I am just done hiding. She turned back to the second patient, the one who'd whispered her old call sign, and kept working, checking his pulse, applying pressure, refusing to leave his side no matter what Dr. Cole threatened. A crowd had gathered at the edge of the bay, nurses, a security guard, even Walter Higgs in his wheelchair, wheeled halfway down the hall by a curious aide. Whispers spread fast. She saved him. He tried to stop her. She saved him anyway. 20 minutes later, the ER doors opened again. This time not for an ambulance, but for 2 men in military dress uniforms, moving with the unmistakable posture of people used to being obeyed. Where is Sergeant First Class Dana Whitfield? The older one asked, voice carrying across the bay. Silence fell. Maya straightened, blood still on her gloves, and turned to face him. That's me, she said. Colonel Reyes. Dr. Cole blinked. Sergeant? Whitfield? Her name is Ellison. Her name, Colonel Reyes said flatly, is Sergeant First Class Dana Whitfield, United States Army Combat Medic, 2 tours, recipient of the Bronze Star with Valor Device for actions during an ambush extraction in 2020 that saved 4 soldiers under direct enemy fire, one of whom is lying on that gurney right now. Gasps rippled through the crowd. She has been listed as a reserve field medic on classified stand-down status for the past 3 years, Reyes continued. Which means, doctor, that not only did she have every right to perform that procedure, She is, medically, the most qualified person in this building. Dr. Cole's face drained of color. I didn't know. You didn't ask, Reyes said. You just assumed she was small enough to step on. Cole stammered, grasping for footing. This is a liability issue, hospital policy clearly states. Save it, Reyes said. Hospital administration is already aware. They've been aware for the last 10 minutes. That was when hospital director and Kowalski arrived, tablet in hand, expression hard as stone. Dr. Cole, she said. We need to talk about the falsified incident reports with your signature attached to 3 complaints filed against Nurse Ellison over the past year. Reports that never happened. The room turned to him. I was protecting the department's reputation, Cole said, voice cracking. I was protecting my reputation. The truth spilled out fast once it started. Cole had been quietly steering patients toward a private cardiac trial funded by a hospital donor, his own uncle's investment firm, inflating enrollment numbers for a kickback, burying 2 adverse outcomes along the way. Nurse write-ups, including the fake ones against Maya, had been his way of discouraging anyone who asked too many questions. Security escorted him out within the hour, his badge deactivated before he even reached the parking lot. But the danger wasn't finished. Cole's business partner, the donor's nephew, a man with far more to lose than a job, arrived at the hospital that same night, furious, desperate, and armed. He cornered Cole in the parking garage, demanding the trial data before it could be seized, and when Maya stepped outside to check on a delivery, she walked straight into the confrontation. Don't move, the man said, gun raised, shaking hands betraying his panic. Maya didn't move, she assessed. Distance. Angle. The tremor in his grip. The same calculations she'd made 100 times in worse places. You don't want to do this, she said, voice level. You don't understand what I'll lose. I understand exactly what you'll lose, she said. Everything. Right now or in 5 minutes when backup arrives. Your choice. Her old commanding officer's voice echoed faintly in her memory. Stay calm, buy time, watch the hands, not the weapon. She thought of a soldier she hadn't been able to save in 2019, the one whose name she still whispered some nights. She would not lose another life to hesitation. Security rounded the corner seconds later. The man's resolve broke before his aim ever steadied. He dropped the weapon. Vitals stable. A paramedic called from inside, checking on Cole's partner, who'd collapsed from the stress before anyone laid a hand on him. BP 90/60. Pulse 110. He has a chance, Maya said quietly, and walked back inside. 6 weeks later, Ridgeview Memorial opened the Whitfield Trauma Response Unit, a specialized program pairing combat-trained medics with civilian ER staff for rapid response emergencies, named for the woman who inspired it. Maya, Dana, stood at the ribbon cutting in her old uniform jacket, a new badge on her chest that finally matched her real name. Walter Higgs sat in the front row in his wheelchair, grinning. Told you, he said. Knew there was more to you than you let on. She knelt beside him and squeezed his hand. You were right. Thank you for seeing me before anyone else did. Sometimes the quietest person in the room has carried the heaviest weight. Strength isn't loud, and hiding isn't the same as being weak. It's just surviving until it's safe to be whole again. The people who see you first, before you're ready to be seen, are the ones worth remembering. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe to Silent Heroes, and tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Dana's position? Our next story is already waiting for you. The end.